Nice. Good morning, all, and welcome to the County of Berrien on this lovely snowy morning. Lake effect. I was sharing with some of my colleagues here. My home has received 12 inches of snow, and others have just received light dusting, and so that's one of the joys of living close to the lake. And we're appreciative of it, even when it's a little more cumbersome to get to work. Yes. Just as a reminder, any electronic devices, please silence them or turn them off. If you have any material that you wish to have distributed to the board, please do so by giving it to our Sergeant of Arm, which is Commissioner Kern. And certainly if you wish to address the board, please do so by going to the podium, stating your name, your municipality that you're from, and then you have 2 minutes to speak with the board on the topic that you wish to speak to us on. With that having been done, all of the housekeeping, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bell. Curran.
Here.
Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Scott.
Present.
Ballraff.
Here.
Werfel.
Here.
Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott. Madam Chair, you have 10 present, 2 absent.
Wonderful. We have a quorum. Mac did contact me. He is traveling right now. He will be here hopefully by the 10:30. So I am leading the charge for this morning's meeting. Before we get into some of the other business, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize our road director who's here, Mark. How was it going through your first snow event as our road director?
Oh, it was interesting, but everything works out, so
Well,
I appreciate it.
I do want to say thank you. I had been receiving some contacts from different leaders of, we were getting 2 to 2.5 inches an hour of snow. And I know that your crew responded and tried to make certain that the primaries were open and just tried to make certain that the roads were passable. So since you were here this morning, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you and your staff. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am, but the real credit belongs to the guys in the plow trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Pass it along to them, please.
Yeah, Madam Chair, New Buffalo Township, we eased into the road department for the winter. We did that so it wouldn't be so traumatic for you.
We were not so kind, right, in our area. That's wonderful. Oh, with that, the next item on the agenda is the minutes from our November 10th meeting. If everybody's received that, reviewed that, I would be looking for a motion to approve those.
I'll make that motion. I'll support.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Majerick. I think support came from Commissioner Werfel. Bob, you were just almost there. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Minutes are approved. All right, a moment with Annette. Requisition. Good morning.
Before I get to the requisition review, so I put one of these in all of your boxes. This is the standard one that we give out, but we do have some others option. I wanted you to see what they look like in case there's something that you might need to. So there's this style, which is the whole year at a glance. We have desk pads as well, and then this is just a flip me one for a page for every month. So just stop in and see me if you want to get any of those. As for the requisition list, you'll notice blankets have begun. So just as a reminder, the blankets go on there. You're going to see a lot of those in the next 3 weeks. It's when departments use vendors for reoccurring expenses over the year. And then when the invoices come in, they just get paid off of that blanket. So when you pass the budget, that puts all of this into motion. And so that's why you'll see those on there. So did anybody have any questions about the requisitions other than?
Are there any questions for Annette on the requisitions?
So those are road payables, and that's on the resolution that we approve at 10:30.
Mhm.
I guess we don't really ask a question on those. I don't know how you want to handle that one, but.
I have some comments on that. So
Can you use your
Mike,
microphone?
please.
Yeah.
Commissioner, thank you.
Thanks. I have some comments on that, so if we could pull that so I can make my comments on it before voting.
Okay, at the 10:30,
Yes.
we'll make note of that and make sure that Mac, and then Commissioner Martin, if you have questions, since those kind of funnel through the finance committee, if you have questions, please feel free to ask that of the members.
Sure.
But definitely during the 10:30, we'll address your questions at that point in time, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, if there are no questions as it relates to the requisitions, those are gonna make their way around the table. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have a presentation from the Friends of Berrien County, and we have some of the members that are here. I know Gary Woods is here, and then Marcy, and John, yeah, it's good to see you again. So please feel free to come on up and take over the podium and begin your presentation. Myself and Brian, we're going to slip to the back just so that we can see the presentation from that perspective.
Okay, this moves the slide forward.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. I'm Gary Wood. I'm president of Friends of Berrien County Trails. And before I begin, I just want to, just sitting here reminds me of my uncle, who was a farmer down in central Illinois, who was a county commissioner, I think, for a couple decades for Piatt County. And then ironically, my sister, who served in the state legislature in Hawaii for 16 years, decided to get back into political office, and she just got elected to the county board of the island of Hawaii, of the Big Island, which I'm going out there for her swearing in December. So it's, and then the third thing is that I am a planning commissioner for the county, and thank you very much. And we just finished our master plan. So as you've seen, so here I am with another master plan. So, so on behalf of Friends of Berrien County Trails, Marcy and myself, thank you for giving us the opportunity to give the first public presentation on the completed Berrien County Trails Master Plan. Let's see if I can, this is not working. Okay. Yeah, that one. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
So this is our leadership team. And Dawn Marie couldn't be here today from Be Healthy Berrien, and then Avon Marsh. Without funding support from the county, 22 out of the 39 municipalities, Berrien Community Foundation, the Pokagon Fund, Spectrum Health Lakeland, and Whirlpool, this Trails Master Plan would not have been possible. I want to thank the commissioners for joining with other community stakeholders for supporting this project. I think you will find this plan to be very informative and resourceful. There were 23 community representatives that served on our steering committee. I want to acknowledge one of your own, Julie Warfel. Other members from the county on the steering committee were Jill Adams, Katie Montoya, and Kevin Stack. They all contributed in meaningful ways to this plan, and we say thank you.
All right. I think most of you know me, Marcy Hamilton, the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission, and I'm just an advisor to the Friends of Berrien County Trails, and obviously, as Gary said, on the leadership team to get this project done. So I just want to go over the plan that you have. It was mentioned that the draft that you had a couple of weeks ago, there were some changes. And so the one you have in front of you today is the most up-to-date final plan. So if you have that draft one, you can recycle that, please, and use this one. But we would just want to go through the plans components. We want to talk about the process that we went through to develop the plan. One of the biggest components of this was the stakeholder and public engagement that we did, and got really good response and support for that. Then some of the recommendations in the plan, and then the implementation of the plan in the toolbox. And that's a really good resource for communities to move this plan forward. And then our next steps and where we're going from here. So you jump in when your next slide comes. This is kind of the process we went through to get to where we are today. First, obviously with planning, you start by collecting data and what's out there, what exists today on the ground. And so we did inventory. We sent out an assessment to every single municipality and the county. And we had 100% participation in that municipal assessment. Every single municipality in Berrien County responded to that and gave us information for their community to be included in the plan. As Gary mentioned, 22 funded us, which is, I don't know of another effort in Berrien County where that many municipalities put in money to fund something. It's pretty amazing. And then 100% participation in the plan development. Public engagement surveys, I'll go through some of the key findings for that. We had open houses throughout the county, 4 of those. And we met with specific different interest groups like bike groups and hiking groups and those types of folks. Then we did a bunch of analysis with, using GIS. As you know, you have a GIS department here. They can do amazing things with mapping locations and figuring out where gaps are and where demand is. So we had a great partner at Avonmarsh that did some great analysis for us. And then we came out with priority route recommendations for trails and implementation. Basically, that's where we have the toolbox. There's a lot of recommendations in there, and then the toolbox to say how we can do this. And we highlight a lot of best practices and other examples from other communities and what they're doing, so we can learn from what's worked in other places. And then the future implementation is what we'll talk about at the end. This one, okay. So the significance of this plan is really, this sets us up to have a common vision in the county of where we're going. Is it set in stone? It's a plan. It's based on the best information we have now and with the public input that we had. But this graph, the chart shows you the existing in the dark color of miles that we have, and then in the lighter color, what we're being proposed. So we have existing 122 miles of water trails. We're proposing another almost 24 miles. Bike lanes, we have about 8 miles existing, proposing another 45. Paths, shared use paths, those multi-use separated paths. We have about 35 miles of those existing. We're proposing another 109, and that's really comes from the county's recreation plan. Does this have a pointer? Is this, yeah. So if you remember the county's recreation plan, it's this connection east-west, then up to St. Joe, and then along the lake shore. And that comes right out of the county's 5-year recreation plan. And so we built on that, obviously. And then wide shoulders, we have about 95 miles existing and 191 proposed. And those are all a lot of the orange routes that you see on that map and how they connect. Yes, Jim?
When you refer to recreation plan, is that through the Parks Department?
Yes, that is the Parks Department, the 5-year county recreation plan that this board approved. Yes. And then what's cool about this is currently with our existing system, about 71,000 people are within a 5-minute walk of the existing network. And when we implement this, over 100,000 of our population will be within a 5-minute walk to a non-motorized facility, which we're really excited about. Stakeholder and public outreach. Like I said, this was a big part of the process and why it took us over a year, because we wanted to make sure we reached out. We did an online survey. We had over 2,000 responses to that online survey, which is really good for a survey. Like I mentioned, the municipal assessment, 100% participation from all the communities. 4 open houses. We had them in New Buffalo, Niles, Coloma, and Benton Harbor. And then Be Healthy Berrien and Spectrum Lakeland Health helped us reach out to some youth and underserved communities to get some more input from those populations. But one of the biggest things we found out is people really desire the multi-use shared use paths that are separate from the road or alongside the road because of safety was their main concern, and they're comfortable. People aren't comfortable oftentimes riding on roads, even if there's a wide shoulder, because of traffic speeds and the amount of traffic. They don't feel safe. And then also there was a lot of comments about right now the system isn't connected. It doesn't connect to where they want to go. So that's the, what we're trying to address with this plan is making those connections, making a network so that people can get where they need to go by biking or walking. And then the municipal assessment, like I said, we had 100% participation. We just have this graph in the plan, and it shows which communities already have trail related information in their current plans that they shared with us. So whether it's in their master plan or in their recreation plan or sometimes in a downtown development plan, these are the communities that already have trails in their plans. Of course, our goal is to, once this plan gets distributed to all the municipalities, that they'll start incorporating this plan into their local master plans and recreation plans so that we're all moving towards the same vision and goals.
Okay. So key findings. What are some of the key findings? Completion of the Michigan section of the Marquette Greenway Trail is a key finding and priority. I'm happy to report that the Give Back dinner at the Bentwood Tavern in New Buffalo on November 3rd raised over $60,000 because of an anonymous donor giving a $120,000 challenge grant. As of today, we're approximately $5,000 short of raising the entire $120,000 match. Other key findings are the importance of a regionally significant trail connections, the development of an east-west corridor from New Buffalo to Niles, use of appropriate local road corridors to connect trails, encourage intergovernmental trail planning between municipalities, target underserved populations with limited access to automobiles and public transportation, and finally, the need to advocate for public and private partnerships to invest in active recreation and transportation. Next slide. The recommendations section of the plan is divided into 6 sections: infrastructure, construction and maintenance, planning and evaluation, policy, education and safety, and marketing and engagement. This slide shows you an example of one of the recommendation pages for infrastructure. This is recommendation I-1 or infrastructure 1, which states complete 4 regionally significant routes that will create a backbone of the proposed network. Think of this backbone connecting the 3 main trail hubs in our county: New Buffalo, Niles, and Benton Harbor, St. Joe. As you can see, these routes one runs along the shoreline communities. We have the one running from New Buffalo across over to Niles, and the other up from Niles to the Twin Cities. Okay, you're next.
And so again, that really builds on, like I said, that backbone that's in the county plan. And when we did those community open houses and got input from folks, these are the ones that really came out that people were supportive of: the Red Arrow Linear Park, the Marquette Greenway, the McCoy Creek Trail, expanding that to connect New Buffalo, Niles, Indiana, Michigan River Valley Trail, and getting it up to Berrien Springs, also up to St. Joe. course, then people want to get up the lake shore, up to South Haven, where you can connect into the Cal Haven and all the other trails. So that's really that, like Gary said, that backbone of the trail system. And then the local connections will come off of that. And those are these orange routes that come off of that and really connect all the other communities in Berrien County. We really want to make sure everybody was connected. And we spent a lot of time reaching out to people who are out there using the roads. And we went to them. We held the open houses, but we also went to them and tried to bring them into the fold and get input from them. And also working with Kevin Stack at the road department and saying, you know, what roads make sense. And we made a lot of changes based on his input on where it made sense for the road commission to be putting wide shoulders on roads to complete the network. And obviously you'll see there's more in like the more urbanized areas, just there's more people here in, you know, these urbanized areas, and out in some of these rural areas, there's not a lot going on, but they can get to these networks. The next thing after the recommendation section, there's a lot more recommendations in there. We just didn't want to, you can read them. We're not going to go through all of them at this presentation, but we just wanted to give you a flavor of those are the major ones for the routes. And then there's some other recommendations around maintenance and those kinds of things. And we expand on a lot of this stuff in the implementation toolbox. And this graphic here kind of shows what I was talking about, how people comfort level with cycling. You know, you have families that want to get out and bike or walk, and then you have your, you know, hardcore road cyclists like John here and his friends who are out there on the roads. And a lot of feedback we got is from, you know, these families that want to ride their bike to destinations. And again, they like those off-road paths. And so that's that backbone trail system that we're proposing. That coordinates with the county's plan. So the topics in the implementation toolbox is there's tools in there for the local communities and how they can do some of this local planning for trails in their own municipalities and evaluate what they are doing locally. Again, the design, construction, and maintenance, we put a lot of time and effort into getting cost figures in here for construction and maintenance. So this is a great resource when you go to how much does it cost to build a trail, how much does it cost to maintain a trail? Because we know communities need to plan for that if they're going to build these infrastructure up front. They need to know what those costs are and plan for them. And we have some great examples and case studies in there of how other communities have funded these things. And that's the last thing, funding. You know, how do we fund for the planning, construction, and maintenance of these facilities? And we have case studies and a list of grants and everything in the toolbox for communities to use. And of course, the Friends of Berrien County Trails and our agency are always a resource for the communities to help get the funding secured for these facilities. We just wanted to take a minute because we know maintenance is a big issue. We have a lot of recommendations in here and information to help communities understand what maintenance short-term, long-term goals are, and really kind of, like I said, getting into their heads, thinking about maintenance upfront, budgeting for it. And I know the county has just passed a resolution about, or a policy about maintenance if there's facilities in the county road right away. So we wanted to make sure all the communities were aware of that. And so we've included information about that in here too. And Gary's going to talk to you about next steps.
Okay. So what are our goals and next steps? Our main goal is getting resolutions of support from all of our local governments over the next several months. This is critically important in order to get grants from federal and state agencies, plus local and regional foundations. When you can show strong support across multiple communities, it does make a difference. Today, we are respectfully asking the commissioners to adopt a resolution of support for the Berrien County Trails Master Plan. In addition to the resolutions, we will be putting out a media release on the completion of the plan. We will create a newsletter, distribute the plan, and do presentations to municipalities and major stakeholders. Finally, Besides the steering committee, this plan is a result of an enormous amount of public engagement, including municipal assessments, a countywide community survey, open houses, and engagement of youth and young adults. We reviewed the feedback and data. We made decisions that may not reflect all comments we received. We did our best. Your trail master plan represents a vision, a guide, a resource. It is the beginning of a conversation. This is not a static document and is subject to change. There's lots of work to be done. Thank you. Now we can go to questions. You got the,
I'll go ahead and end that.
There you go.
You want to just step to the slide for me? There we go. Thank you.
So while we're adjusting, are there any questions that you may have for?
Board members, please use your microphones when asking your questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
Perfect. Good to know. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Martin and then Commissioner Scott.
I have a few questions. This plan that you have out, who's going to be the overseer of this plan?
well, we're gonna be the steward for the plan, the Friends of Berrien County Trails. So we'll be the one that will, as we get input from the community, over time, we'll be updating the plan.
And another partnership with that would be with our office. The maps that you see in here with all those priority routes are all online, an online GIS system that anybody can go to and look at. So Avon-Marsh is transferring all that data over to us at the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission, and we're going to be stewards of that. Because that helps us with our transportation planning that we do through Twin Cats, NATS, and the Rural Task Force. And also, at least the last 2 times, we've done the MDOT 7-county non-motorized plan. So by us keeping that update for Berrien County, then that helps us do that update, that MDOT plan too. So it'll be a partnership on that.
I think I'd also say that the reality of the master plan, it is a tool for the municipalities, for them to be able to work with their community to, if they have an interest in having trails in their community, to use the plan as a resource and a tool. I think from the standpoint of our organization, it's going to be the regional connectors, the backbone that we're going to be spending a lot of time and resources on.
I'd like to add to that, I'm the vice president, because we're going to go out and meet with the municipalities and the planning groups in the municipalities to promote it, communicate and educate them as to what it is, how to use it. So we're going to work with each community in terms of implementation.
Also, is there going to be any coordination with our Parks Department, our County Road Commission, anything like that for any type of amendments that you might all of a sudden like to throw in there to make sure that it's going to go along with what the county is foreseeing for a plan? Because I don't see anything listed in there about that.
Well, if you look in the recommendation sections, there's champions, and a lot of those would be the road department, Parks Department, Friends of Berrien County Trails, because those are the ones that, along with the municipalities, are going to be implementing this. So it's going to be a partnership moving forward to get this done.
And also on your maintenance, I did briefly in the short, very, very, very short time I've had this document in front of me to ask a question like you put in there that you want to use volunteers to help maintain the trail. When we're talking about volunteers, what type of work are you talking about them doing?
That's a great question. And that's already happening down in Niles. There's Friends of the Indiana Michigan River Valley Trail that have formed, and they do go out and collect trash and, kind of keep an eye out on the trail and report things back to the city or township that may need attention. And then Buchanan, there's a Friends of the McCoy Creek Trail group that's very active, and they do a ton of volunteer work and fundraising. So we have some really good examples of that already happening in the county. And we kind of see as these new trails are formed that those types of groups are going to continue to evolve and take some stewardship over this.
Who's gonna cover liability for trails? Yep.
So
I
the
don't, because in our policy, we have maintenance and liability for trails. Who's gonna cover liability for volunteers? Who's gonna cover liability?
So, I mean, the liability is, my understanding of the state of Michigan is that local governments are pretty much immune to liability on transportation facilities unless something is like severely neglected and like that you were aware of something and didn't do anything to try to correct it. That governments are pretty much immune to any liability. And I think that's part of our state law from what I understand. And I don't know if that one's done.
Thaddeus might, but what I was
Well-
gonna also say to this, and then I'm gonna let Commissioner Scott ask his question, is this document is a guiding document for those municipalities that are interested in pursuing trails within
Yes.
their own jurisdiction. And this is kind of making certain that we have a boilerplate for all of those so that there's uniformity in the policies, in the way that we approach both maintenance, volunteer, those types of things, so that we have a nice network in that way. And
And
so
we
this,
did include the county's new policy that addresses maintenance and liability is in the plan too.
Right.
So the municipalities are aware of that.
and so these particular recommendations would be things that would be an actionable item that this board in our own designs and efforts through our parks and other departments could then look at as an idea to help us to figure out that journey and that navigation moving forward. So
I just had one more question. And then I'm done. Short one, and it's about the liability issue. Because we passed policy for any type of grant work and anything else that anyone would come to, that part of the agreement for the grant to receive a grant
Mhm.
is that they will take care of the maintenance and they will be responsible for all liability
Sure, I
of that
understand.
trail.
And that policy is included in the plan.
I see that, but I'd like to say. I can see
Commissioner
that also.
Martin, for the sake of time, we're going to move ahead and let Commissioner Scott and any others that may have some questions to be able to ask their question. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, I'm happy to discuss the liability issue as well. But what Marcy said was pretty much correct. That for the most part, local units of government have immunity from tort liability when it comes to travel on the roadway, especially outside the portion that's designed for vehicular traffic. So in many ways, trails reduce liability.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott, the floor is yours.
Just a question. I didn't see any place in the master plan, maybe you could elaborate on it, on the maintenance part of the trails. As it goes through those municipalities, what correspondence have you gotten from the municipalities on how they're going to fund the maintenance of those trails? And I guess we'll ask the elephant in the room question is, have any of them expressed raising taxes for particular trails in their municipalities due to the fact that you have X amount of miles running through New Buffalo Township? New Buffalo Township, by way of the tribal casino, has a little bit more flush with money than Weesaw Township or Galeen Township, who are very cash strapped because of their tax base. So I have those questions because that's going to be something that's going to get you support or not support in those communities.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And to date, all of the trails that have been built, the off-road separated paths and like you said, New Buffalo Township, Chickamine Township, Niles Township, and within the cities and villages, those municipalities have stepped up. Now it's up to them locally to decide how they're going to fund the maintenance. Some are using their parks department budget, some are using their general funds. To my knowledge, none of them have specifically raised taxes to fund trails or to maintain them. Although Chickamine Township, I know you guys did a road millage. You know, it's up to the community whether they want to put towards other transportation facilities besides just for vehicles, that they want to include non-motorized. That's a local decision that they need to make. And obviously, if they decide to do a millage to support their parks or trails or roads, that's their decision. And we and you probably don't have a say in that. So that's up to them if they want to go that route.
I have a question from Commissioner Warfel and then one from Commissioner Yarbrough.
Actually, not a question, just want to support what you just said. Remember, this is a guidepost. This is not, we're going to start building all these trails. So the process and the procedures, the resolution that we, or the, I'm sorry.
The policy.
The policy, I'm not thinking words this morning, I'm sorry. The policy that we passed, those things all still stand in place. So like we had the Chickamine section for that TAP grant, that would still come to us. We would still have all of those for those individual segments. They're not going, this policy does not, or this trails plan does not override any of those things. Those things all still come to us.
And that's why incorporate, it's not, doesn't override, it's incorporated into it.
Yes. Commissioner Yarbrough.
Thank you. And this is what I see. Normally you see things that are a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan, but this is working. You'll continue to add to it, learn more things, and then some things will become completed, won't they?
Yeah, I hope so.
But you've been working on this such a long time, and I applaud you all. I'm not a walker or a biker, but I like for things to work. So we were in Union Pier, and it was just beautiful to see grandparents pushing strollers and, people being safe. So I thank you for all you're doing.
Thanks, Amy.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so just for clarity's purpose, you all received the plan. We are not asking for immediate action. We're asking that the Board of Commissioners take time to digest everything that's built into the plan. We will have a draft resolution that we will bring forward to the admin committee to chew on. Again, we're not asking for immediate action. We recognize it's a lengthy document and there's certain to be a lot of questions. So I will walk that draft resolution down to admin today. And as the committee is comfortable, as you've had a chance to review it, at that time, we would ask consideration of a draft resolution of support. I will, as soon as admin says they're comfortable with it, I'll push it out to the full board. I'm sure that there are going to be some tweaks to be the document that we prepare.
Appreciate that clarification. And I want to take the time to thank you and the Friends of the Berrien County Trail for the work that you've done to be able to do all of the community outreach to draft a document like this. And appreciate you taking the time this morning to share it with us. And Brian, I appreciate you walking us through the next processes for this board. With that, if there are, yes, Commissioner Kern.
I just have a procedurally question. Really, the way the Board of Commissioners got involved in this trail was through the Parks Department with the linear trail of connecting all the parks. And we have definitely evolved beyond that. So I'm wondering, is this plan going to be presented to the Parks Department, and are they going to adopt it, give it its blessings before it comes to us, or in conjunction with us, or they have nothing to do with it? That's my question.
Can I respond to that?
Please.
Can you use your?
So this has been a point of debate and a friendly debate. But what we're seeing is Parks Department have had their fingers involved in trails, but the bulk of the trail building is actually occurring under the road department's right of way. So parks would fall under PHS, roads falls under admin. So there's been a debate about which committee is the more important committee.
Here we go again.
Okay, I understand why it's coming to admin now. We're more important.
Brian. You have the floor, Brian.
But with all sincerity, if admin wants to suggest that Parks Commission consider a resolution of support, that there is no problem with doing that. Today, we're just going to start briefing admin on what options you'd like to pursue. And this really is one of these that is split between two different committees, two different departments, and there's no wrong way to attack the issue.
I would add also, if I may, yesterday we had a parks meeting. And I invited all of the parks commissioners to watch this morning as it was being presented. So hopefully there's a number of them online and they are, because they wanted to see it.
Good, thank you, I appreciate that, and I understand now why he's doing through admin and not PHS.
You just had to take some salt and rub it in there. Understood.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make a comment to the other colleagues and the other committees. Finance is controlling the money, so make sure that we're involved too.
All right, with that wonderful, friendly debate, I would like to open it up for public comments. If there are any members of the public that wish to address the board, please do so.
Good morning. Sorry I was late. Was at another meeting.
Good morning.
Melissa Clapper, St. Joseph Charter Township. Just need to say my annual after the vote. Our thanks to all of our municipalities, our clerks, our election inspectors. Special thanks to our county administrator for everything that they have done this year, which has been nonstop for Sharon, for Sheila, for all of them. And I hope that you all are so appreciative of the staff that we have and that we're doing everything we can to retain those people so that we don't have to start over again and go forward, but that we show appreciation for all that we do. They do a tremendous job. Things that we heard didn't materialize, which was good for all intents and purposes. It was a very boring day. It was long. It was very intense for the people that were working it. But otherwise, we came through it, and democracy showed that we are very capable in Berrien County of running safe and fair elections. And so kudos to all of those involved. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none, is there any other business to come before this board? No, well then we stand adjourned until our 10:30 meeting to go to your parent meetings. Thank you.